Hello my friends. If you struggle to get back into the game when you are behind, then this video is exactly what you need. This will be a fully educational video, no bullshit, straight to the point, and explain you the theory of what good comeback mechanics exists in League that maybe you've never heard about in your entire life. So let's get it done. We will go chronologically, so from early game to mid game to late game kinda. We start with early game, or like laning phase rather. So the first one is that you can often cheese in fog or like in the bushes to get kinda chunks on the enemies to enable windows for your team to make the game playable. So let's say you're basically playing like any sort of champion. What you can often do is like, let's say you have vision here or something, I don't know, and you're like super far behind, then what you can do is like even look here with the W, like don't immediately run onto a lane. Maybe you get a W onto the enemy. Maybe you get like a good chunk on the enemy. And then the next one is what you can do, and a lot of AD carries don't do this. Like let's say your bot lane is completely cooked and you cannot play the game again, and like the moment your base or like respawning, you already see the enemies are slow pushing and they will dive you on next wave, for example. Then what you can like do is even open through mid lane. Now the important part is like what champion you're playing, right? Because if they would dive you on bot lane anyways, then it would make sense to open mid lane. Let's say you're playing Jhin, for example, really good champion to do that. You can maybe enable mid lane. But what's like more important to understand is that if you're opening mid lane, you are generating numbers on mid lane, then maybe you can get this mid lane push, right? And then you guys can actually fog to bot lane, now establish vision in like river, and maybe make your mid laner move to bot lane, and enemy mid needs to catch mid, right? And then you now have numbers on bot lane and can maybe play the game again. Another thing that you can do is actually swap with your top laner. So let's say your top laner is like playing a tank or something and is really good in the game, maybe even has his quest finished, right? And you are like really far behind. Then usually what you can do is just base and actually open top lane. Yes, it will delay your spike on your item, but if they just perma farm you on bot lane, then this is actually something that you can do, especially if your top lane is ahead, and then maybe you can just chill into the enemy top laner. For example, I know this will be like really hard for solo queue, but maybe if you're like pre-med with your top laner or you're playing in a bit of higher elo, let's say, then people will actually do this, and you should not care that much about your quest. Then another thing I always see, like when people are behind, they always tend to just farm the wave. Like they go for every single minion. But what you should usually do when you're like really far behind, right, then you should probably prevent HP and like not be in threat to dive again or like to get dove, right? So when there's a wave coming, maybe you need to drop 1 or 2 minutes on like a specific slow push, and then you just go back to your turret, or like you're kind of looking to sneak XP, right? And then what you can do is just prevent HP, and then maybe on the next bounce you can actually play the game again. But if you're like always in a bad condition, like let's say you're always low HP, low mana because you keep trading even though you are behind and you know it's maybe losing, like maybe your jungler is playing topside, then you will never get in a good position again this game. And then the last one is actually like only the theoretical part, right? If your turret is down, for example, what you can usually do is actually freeze on bot lane. So when the enemies are pushing here, they're taking the turret, then you just wait here, and you can try freezing like a few waves, because yes, the enemy team will have numbers in your top side, right? And if they swap, but the best thing that you can usually do is just farm your quest. You can freeze a bit actually. Your team needs to play with like number disadvantage, but that's totally fine if you want to like somehow come back into the game and at least progress your quest a bit. Then let's straight head into mid game. When we are still behind in the mid game, then we have like a few things we can do. So AD carries are usually a lot around mid lane waves, right? What you can do first thing is that you need to understand how mid waves work. So if the enemy touches the wave first, that's like totally fine and we can just receive the wave. Same thing is here with like preventing HP. So there's a term that we always use in competitive, and it's about cheating priors kind of. So you kind of cheat a wave. Let's say you have vision here, right? And now you're on this mid lane wave and the wave is already here spawning. And now you see that the enemy AD carry is currently dropping this mid lane prio. Like probably he should be on this wave and just securing the prio so they can make a play topside. Let's say, for example, if you see that the enemy is doing this mistake, and like this will happen in like till challenger games, I can tell you that. If you see it, then you can like move up really far on this mid lane wave, like taking waves high, taking waves mid, taking waves low, right? Then you can move up really high on the next mid lane wave and like just hover into the side the enemies are not playing in. So this will probably be your safe side here. And then you try to take the wave as aggressive as possible, and then you basically cheated a prio, and now you're like getting a wave for free, and the enemies have no play on your mid lane turret and they cannot move into top lane, so they need to play next wave again, right? So basically you denied them 30 seconds, or like rather 1 minute of playing the game actually. Then what you can also do is sometimes opening side lane and just try to nuke waves. So you go into side, right? You see waves that can just be taken for free, and it's really important that we are like not hard pushing every single wave, right? Because usually we can always take like 2 waves on side if we consider like slow pushing first and then hard pushing next. So let's say our turret here is down and we want to play one wave here, then we can start slow pushing here. We combine it with the next wave and then we hard push the next wave, right? In competitive, for example, we say +1 waves to these. Basically a wave that can maybe sometimes be a bit risky, you know, a bit flippy, but it's really good if we actually get this wave. Because if the wave doesn't crash, for example, then usually the enemies actually have a better lane state or like wave state than before. So it's really important to take these +1 waves if we are actually considering going side lane and taking waves for free. Then another thing that you can do, let's say the enemies are just spam on pushing mid, right? Your turret here is down. And then a lot of people don't do this, but what you can actually do is let the wave come here and now you are just chilling, you know, and you can basically freeze the wave here. By this, you are again getting another prio completely for free. So the enemy wave would come here, you freeze it here, now your minion wave is coming. If you would now hit this wave, for example, then bam, 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 the next minion wave would meet in the middle again, right? And then like you're behind, right? It's hard to just move up to mid lane and contest the next wave if you're behind. So then if you're like holding the wave here a bit, the next wave from the enemy will move more into your side and then you can basically play this wave and the enemies would like need to step up really far on this mid lane wave. So this is how we can like cheat prios by just slow pushing mid lane waves or like not freezing them, you know, but you can hold them here and then just let the enemy wave come more into your side. It's a really good comeback mechanic that we can use as AD carry. And then there's like the opposite part, of course, like we can drop mid lane waves or like mid lane prios to generate numbers on side. So let's say the enemies are like pushing mid lane already, you see it's like, okay, you're too late, like for whatever reason your tempo is really bad. Then what we can do is like also open side lane, right? And like maybe get numbers on side lane on a play if our teammates are like strong, right? And then we just drop the mid lane wave, which is like totally fine. And a lot of people just always move mid lane and take the wave, you know, but sometimes it can be good to actually skip this wave to maybe get a comeback in the game. And now a mechanic that like almost no one is doing actually, it's like, let's say you have no vision, right? You're behind, it's hard for your support to establish vision. We always want a safe side on mid lane where we can actually hover in because like let's split mid lane like this. You always want to be like hovering into one side, correct? So now what you can do is like you can kind of build up a safe side for yourself. So let's say you want to touch this mid lane wave and the only danger is like from this side. Then you can actually use your blue orb like this, for example, right? You can also do like use it a bit different. You can use your blue up to build yourself up a safe set and now maybe you can actually touch this wave or like contest the prio. It's something that not a lot of people are using, but you can actually do this. And now late game there's like not that much to talk about because usually you should be fine in the game if this point is kind of reached, but if you are still like super far behind, then you can still do like a few things, I would say. What you can always do, of course, but you can also do this in mid game, is to just start pressuring side, right? Like let's say you're playing Vayne or something, or a champion that is like really good into side lane, but you feel completely useless in like team fights, then maybe you can pressure sides like really deep. And now if the enemy is actually moving top, right, to you, and they use numbers for you, or like maybe even only one number, and you die 1v1, and your team is like winning the 4v4 on bot side because like let's say Soul is up or something, then this can be something that you can do to actually come back into the game or maybe make the game winnable for yourself. And then of course we have another part that is like related to jungle camps, like it's same thing for mid game, but if your jungler is kind of ahead, you know, then it's hard. But let's say for example you're opening into top lane or something and there's no wave to take right now, it's like pushed or something, and your jungler's opening bot, you see okay they will play like a really long turn into bot side, then you can maybe like just take your whole jungler's top side and get resources by this, basically for free. I hope you found this helpful, or at least some of these points you didn't know. Feel free to leave me any sort of feedback in the comments, and if you're interested in coaching, feel free to check out my coaching Discord or my Patreon for more. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.